John Dewey was born October 20th, 1859 in Burlington, Vermont. He died June 1st, 1952. Dewey was a philosopher and psychologist who became known as the father of progressive education. Dewey grew up attending Burlington public schools. Because he excelled as a student, he was able to enroll at the University of Vermont at just 15 years old. There he enjoyed studying philosophy and graduated 4 years later, second in his class. After teaching high school for 2 years, Dewey returned to Vermont to teach at a public school while still studying philosophy in his free time. He decided to take a break from teaching to study philosophy and psychology at Johns Hopkins University, where he received his doctorate in 1884. Dewey was hired as an assistant professor at the University of Michigan, where he met his wife, Harriet Alice Chipman, and was married in 1886. He then taught at the University of Minnesota before returning to Michigan to teach for another 5 years. Dewey became head of the philosophy department at the University of Chicago in 1894 and remained until 1904 when he left to become a professor of philosophy at Columbia University. He retired in 1930 with the title of Professor Emeritus, which is an honorary term meaning he was a highly successful professor. Dewey created over 1,000 books and articles over the course of his career on a wide variety of topics, but his primary intellectual interest was education. His expectations for schools were based on his vision of a good society where democratic practice led to problem-solving and personal and community growth. Ultimately, Dewey's theory is that students learn by doing. He is categorized in the educational philosophy of pragmatism, which means he believes reality must be experienced. He said, "Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself." At the time, American economy was changing, and Dewey believed that schools were not preparing students to be creative and active in society. He believed that education should be based on life experiences, and he was able to incorporate this in the laboratory school at the University of Chicago, where his wife was the principal. All of the curriculum was based on real-life scenarios, which allowed students to learn while doing. Teachers would present real-life problems and guide students to solve them. By trial and error, students were able to work out problems together and learn to share and communicate with others. Teachers were responsible to be aware of the children's intellectual abilities and provide situations that fit their levels. Reading, writing, and math were taught in the course of daily routines, such as cooking, sewing, and building things. The students needed to be able to measure and to read in order to accomplish these tasks. It was in these hands-on situations that the students learned all the skills they needed. This came to be known as the Dewey School and was part of his work when the University of Chicago made Dewey the chairman of the Department of Philosophy, Psychology, and Pedagogy. It operated for 7 years and had over 100 students. Dewey attained a great deal of knowledge from this school and translated most of his findings into his writings. Dewey believed that focusing on the relationship of thinking and doing, students could be taught problem-solving skills needed to succeed in any circumstance. He shifted the focus of educational psychology from the institution of the school to the needs of the students by emphasizing on the importance of a democratic lifestyle. He believed in educating the whole child by moving learning beyond just subject matter and focusing on needs and interests of the child. Although John Dewey's philosophy of progressive education has proved to be helpful and effective, it has its limitations. It has been argued that because it does not have specific teacher-directed lessons or standard ways of teaching, it can be difficult to teach subjects such as humanities or critical reading. It can also create problems with noise levels in classrooms with the unbalanced student-to-teacher ratio in public schools. With that said, there are still many useful applications of progressive education in classrooms today. When it comes to mathematics, students always retain concepts better when they can practice the problems themselves and apply them to real-world situations. This hands-on approach can give students a variety of opportunities and encourage continuing education in all aspects of life.